Just go. Hi, welcome to the DESSA Alternate Assessment Deeper Dive. My name is Jessica Bass, and I work with the Access Project for the Center of Disability Studies at the University of Delaware. I have with me Michelle Jackson, who's going to introduce herself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michelle Jackson. I work here at the Office of Assessment. I oversee the accommodations and accessibility supports for special populations, as well as the alternate assessment. Thank you.
We have created a Padlet, which is a great way to collect resources. This Padlet has all the information that we are covering today, as well as different parent guides, also articles, questions to ask during your IEP meeting related to the alternate assessment. So we encourage you to go and use this resource. It is open to anyone. So the point of assessments are that they actually allow educators and students and parents and policymakers and community members look at student growth to help instruction and also many different supports that students need in order to reach the goals that assessments measure. So the rationale behind this presentation today is that the Every Student Succeeds Act, ESSA, ensures that the parents of each student are clearly informed as part of the process for developing the IEP. So it's important that parents know for the alternate assessment is that it covers alternate standards, so it measures student progress on the alternate academic achievement standards. And also, this is to let you know about the participation effects on the student for completing the requirements for a regular high school diploma. So this is the vision of the Department of Education's Office of Assessment. So their vision is that all students have an entry point and access to the state assessment system relative to their individual needs. So students that take the Delaware alternate assessment have to fall into this definition. So this is the definition of students with the most significant cognitive disabilities. So a student with a significant cognitive disabilities is one whose disabilities pervasively impact their intellectual functioning and adaptive behavior. Significant deficits in the intellectual functioning result in the student requiring extensive direct instruction and substantial supports in order to make measurable educational gains. Significant deficits in adaptive behavior often result in the student being unable to develop the skills needed to live independently or to function safely in their daily life at home, in school, and in the community. As a result, the student is learning academic content that is reduced in depth, breadth, and complexity. Now, this definition was developed in the fall of 2018, and we wanted to point out the word pervasively. This is important because the student must be affected in all aspects of their lives, the academic areas, all academic areas, as well as independent life as well. So we want to make sure that the student falls under this definition before they are considered for the alternate assessment. So what does it mean when a student falls into the definition? So ultimately, it means that the general education standards and state assessments are not appropriate for that student, even with the accommodations that are provided on the general state assessment. The student will also access learning content using the Delaware Alternate Academic Achievement Standards. And then that performance will be measured by their participation in the DESA alternate assessment. So the DESSA alternate assessment measures students' progress on the essential elements. So that is another name in the DLM system that refers to the alternate academic achievement standards. Now the students participate in grade levels 3, 3rd grade to 8th grade, and 11th grade in both ELA and math. And then in science, the alternate assessment takes place in grades the 5th grade, 8th grade, and 10th grade. And you will notice that 10th grade deals with the topic of biology. This alternate assessment, the students they take the assessment individually, and it's a 1-to-1 student teacher ratio, and it's online and it's adaptive. So that means as the student takes the assessment, it adjusts to the student's performance. So we talked about the Delaware Academic Achievement Standards, which are also known as the essential elements. So we want to point out what the essential elements are and what they are not. So they are modified standards that are reduced in complexity. These standards are aligned to the Common Core state standards. This is important because we want to make sure that students that take the alternate assessment have the same expectations as their peers that take the general assessment. And it's an entry point to the general curriculum. So the essential elements does not mean that the student is taking or interacting and participating with another type of curriculum. They are learning the general curriculum, and the essential elements allow the student to access that curriculum of their peers. The essential elements are not the replacement for the Common Core state standards. They're also not a downward extension, so they still hold that high expectations for students to meet. Statements of functional skills, so they are not focused on functional skills, they are not the curriculum, and it does not address learning progressions. The essential elements are not IEP goals or IEP benchmarks. And like the grade level college and career readiness standards, the essential elements do not define what is taught and how it should be taught. So how will your child benefit from participating in the alternate assessment? So the alternate assessment provides documentation of the child's growth. It also provides information for the IEP team to use to celebrate the child's success, the student's success. It also informs educators so that they may improve learning, student knowledge, and inform instruction. The DLM assessment system, that is what the state of Delaware uses as their alternate assessment platform, provides students with similar instructional and assessment experience as their general education peers. And then it provides educators, parents, and other IEP team members with information about the student's performance. And the assessment system is also used to help make appropriate instructional decisions. So how does your student access the assessment? So it's very important to know or remember that the student is taking the alternate assessment because they are unable to access the general assessment even with supports. But the student also needs supports to access the alternate assessment. So the accessibility supports are often referred to as accommodations. So you may see accessibility supports in the IEP document. They're tools that make the assessment equitable for all students. And the accessibility supports can be embedded in the assessment. So they are provided by DLM, or they can be non-embedded, which means they're provided outside of DLM. So there are 3 kinds of accessibility supports available to students. So you will notice that universal tools are available to all students who participate in all the assessments. Designated supports are available for general education students who need supports, English language learners, and for students with IEPs or 504 plans. And then the accommodations that are available, they're available only to students with IEPs or 504 plans. So this is an example of what these accessibility supports look like. This is a form that your educational diagnostician with the IEP team will fill out based on the student's needs to access the general education curriculum and the alternate assessment, and if your student takes the general assessment as well. So you will notice that breaks, calculators, dictionaries, magnifiers, spell check, modified lighting, and even refocus are some of the many supports that are provided on the universal level. And then on the designated support level, you will see that there's translations that are embedded in the assessment, as well as color contrast, dealing with students with VI needs. And then level 3 accommodations include sign language, Braille, any kind of alternate response or number table. And you will see how the supports that are provided kind of get more and more complex for the student and are more focused on the student's needs as it relates to the disability. And here are the accessibility supports. In addition to the slide that I just showed you previously, these supports are specifically tailored to the alternate assessment. So some are the same, and then some are more need focused. So there is a way that the student can prepare for the assessment. Teachers have access and parents have access as well to these materials. So there are practice tests called release testlets, and they are provided to teachers through the DLM system, as well to parents on the DLM website. And those links can be found on the Department of Education Office of Assessment webpage dealing with the alternate assessment. So this is just an example of a release testlet for ELA. You will notice that there is less text on the screen, and then it also, once again, is adaptive to the student's performance on the test. Here is an example of math. The same thing, less text on the screen, and it's adaptive to that student's performance. And then science. So once again, these testlets are available to you as parents on the DLM website. So the biggest thing about the alternate assessment is that it's measuring progress based on the alternate academic achievement standards. So DLM provides a way for parents to know how their student is progressing in the standards. So a performance profile or score report is provided to parents, and it gives you 4 performance levels: emerging, approaching the target, at target, and advanced. And it shows the overall results of the alternate assessment and where the student falls. So on the right-hand side of the screen, this is what a performance profile or score report looks like. You will see that at the bottom where it says area, there are essential elements or alternate academic achievement standards, and this shows where the student lies with mastery. And then at the top or in the middle where it says, where you see the rectangles, it shows you what performance level the student is at. So this particular example, the student is at target. Michelle, is there anything else you want to add? Okay, moving on. So this is the learning profile. In the learning profile, it shows what skills the student demonstrated on the assessment and how those skills compare to grade level expectations. Remember that the essential elements are directly aligned to the Common Core state standards.
Yes, hello, sorry about that.
You're fine.
I had issues unmuting. So if we just head back one, I'm so sorry. As far as with the performance profile, besides what you went over, basically the performance profile is talking about what a student knows and can do in that subject overall. And it's one source of evidence that gives a general, that tells what they can do based on how they respond in the assessment. So you can see there on your screen where it highlighted at target. So this student, if you look a little bit further down, where it talks about, let's see, a little bit further down where it's showing a summary on how the skills that the students have mastered, and it's given it by conceptual area, and the bar charts help to identify the broad areas of strength and need within that subject. So for each of the conceptual area, the report shows the percentage of mastery. And then you'll see that note that tells the number of skills mastered and the number of skills available. Thank you. So if we move to that learning profile, it's a little blurred, but you're going to see those numbers of 1, 2, 3, 4 is for at target, and then the 5. So that level 1 is that initial precursor level. Level 2 is the distal precursor level. Level 3 is the proximal precursor level. Level 4 is the target, and level 5 is the successor. So beyond that target for that essential element and how the student performs. Thank you.
So the Office of Assessment provides family resources, and they provide parent guides to the alternate assessment, what parents need to know about the accessibility supports on assessments. It also lets parents know the procedures for administering the DeSSA-Alt, and there's also a DeSSA-Alt fact sheet. You can find frequently asked questions. Something that parents find helpful is the comparison between the Delaware's high school diploma and the diploma of the alternate achievement standards. So there are different expectations and post-secondary implications for a student who is on the ALT. They may graduate with the Delaware high school diploma or the diploma of alternate achievement standards based on how they meet the diploma requirements at their school. Something that will be covered at a later session is that you'll go over the dynamic learning maps. So once again, that is the platform that provides the alternate assessment for the state of Delaware. At the bottom, you will find the Testlet information page sheets that link to the practice Testlets. I'm going to click on the links so you can just see some of the materials. So here is the Delaware Alternate Assessment webpage. And you will find a lot of information dealing with the alternate assessment. Some we have covered already today, and some are very detailed to the essential elements, the alternate academic achievement standards. This webpage also has the definition, the eligibility requirements, and the participation decision-making tool as well. The accessibility guidelines, so the full manual and the manual sections, any other approved request forms. So it kind of gives you behind the scenes what sometimes as parents you don't see. So this information will help with making informed decisions dealing with whether your child will take the alternate assessment. So here is the family educator resource section. And I'm just going to click on the parent guide for the alternate assessment. Can you guys see this screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so this is a little guide for you to reference what the Delaware alternate assessment is all about. It goes over the definition and what that means. It goes over how do you know whether your child has a most significant cognitive disability. It goes over the process of the IEP team to choose whether a student is eligible for the alternate assessment. some questions for you to ask during the IEP meeting as well. So this is just a way for you to be informed when you go into the IEP meeting and the decision will be made, whether the student meets the eligibility criteria for participating on the alternate assessment. So thank you for attending this session. If you have any questions, please contact PIC and they will reach out to Michelle at the Office of Assessment or myself at the Access Project.
I did want to add briefly that parent forum and a lot of our forms information are generally also interpreted. We have interpretations for those as well in Spanish and in Haitian Creole. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jessica and Michelle, and thank you for your presentation. And thanks for joining the webinar today.
Thank you.